the mind there.
It's the year 2026, and we are already off to a bang. We're going to talk about a world record Superman sale and all of our biggest winners and losers going into this year. Next up on the Ungraded Truth podcast.
Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book banned? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody's submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how can it ever get crazier? And then it always does.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the number one show in the universe, The Ungraded Truth. It is our first show of the year 2026, and we're already off to a bang. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen in the chat, I am joined as always by the gentlemen that you see on the screen, Rob, Neo Cards and Comics, Ryan, Automatic Comics, and Manu, the 99 Newsstand. Happy New Year, fellas. How are you all doing?
Good start.
I mean, I just sold, an Action 1 for 15 million. So, I'm feeling pretty good.
Feeling pretty good about yourself.
I just bought an Action 1 for 15 million. Holy shit.
Oh, shit. I defensively bid that thing. Oh, wait, it was private.
Yeah.
Damn.
No.
Here we are looking for major sponsorship, and I just find out that my co-hosts have billions of dollars and are just buying up Action Comics number ones. But until they're willing to open up their wallets, we have to, try to get sponsors on the channel, which, by the way, guys, before we get into the show, which, of course, we have a big show to talk about. We have Super One, Action Comics number one, setting world records to talk about. We have to always talk about the number one YouTube channel in the world, the Ungraded Truth YouTube. Fellas, last time we were live, our YouTube channel had 850 subscribers. Let it be known that right now we are at 951 subscribers. That is an increase of 3,782%. We are just a stone's throw away from 1,000 subscribers. So we might be able to soon stream on our very own YouTube channel. Also, if you go over here, link in the description in this little Ungraded Truth YouTube, hop over to Spotify. We are on Spotify as well. We need everybody who is a fan of the show to hop over to our Spotify page and give it a listen, give it a follow, maybe even write a little bit of a review. You're going to want to do that because I want to show you guys some inside baseball right now on our Spotify YouTube analytics. If you go down here into our audience, you can see that 78% is made up by the United States, 16% Canada, but we are going number one in Finland. Shout out to our Finland listeners. 6% of our audience is up there in the, what do you call that area? The
Frozen North? I don't know.
Frozen North, yeah, whatever. I was going to say like the Great North. I think that's Canada, though. But shout out to our Finland listeners. We're going number one. But gentlemen, I mean, our social numbers are almost as big as Action Comics number one numbers.
Yeah. Or bigger, actually. Bigger and more worth talking about and more valuable.
More future potential. That's all we can say there.
Nothing but upside for us here, right? What are you going to do after 15 million? Where are you going? But us, come on. Sky's the limit.
Not more valuable than us, though.
Probably not more valuable than us, but I hope everyone is doing well at the start of this calendar year. Thank you all for joining us in the chat, but let's jump right into our lead story here. This show was meant to be kind of a kickoff show for the year 2026, and we were going to talk about, things that we're looking forward to, things that we see coming into the collectible space for 2026, but we're already off to a major bang, which just yesterday, breaking news, CGC certified Action Comics number one sets new record with surprise $15 million private sale. If you guys don't know about this story, this is the legendary copy that was once owned by famous actor Nicolas Cage. That actually ended up getting stolen from him. The book was gone for, I believe, upwards of 10 years. It was finally found. They auctioned it back in 2011. It commanded $2 million. In 2014, another Action one, which there is another 9.0 on the census, opposite of this copy that sold for $3 million. And, it's been 10 years or so until this recent copy got sold again, which was just yesterday. It got announced, selling for $15 million, putting it roughly 6 million over the previous Superman number 190 copy that we talked about in previous shows. Gentlemen, this is the new most expensive comic book in the world. I'm just going to open up to the floor for reactions. What did you guys think about the sale when you heard about it yesterday?
I mean, I'm not surprised that it broke the record from Superman 1. I mean, like, I think we knew that just the fact that Superman 1 went for 9 million, like Action 1 is the bigger book, same grade, also top of census. Like, I mean, granted, it's not single highest. The other copy, I mean, I would argue is better than this one because it's a white page copy. It just, the colors look better, all that kind of stuff. But it's still, you know, it's a 9.0. And I feel like 15 million is a strong number, though. Mm-hmm. Like, and I think maybe you had mentioned this in your video too. It's like, maybe that wouldn't have gotten that in auction, but this is what it took to get the current owner to go, I'm willing to let this go. It's like when I've sold some books before, like you throw out these, like, I don't want to sell it numbers. And sometimes the person just says, do it. Yeah. And so you better be ready for that person to accept that I don't want to sell it number.
Yeah.
But what do you think, Manu or Neo, got thoughts on this one?
For me, it came so like it just came out of nowhere, right? And this is gonna sound terrible, but I didn't have the ability. I mean, it's definitely remarkable. Like, you know, it's a big thing, but I didn't find the emotion of excitement. I still haven't found it, and I think as I think about it a little bit, it might be because, like, with that Superman 9.0, it was at auction, you know, there was the anticipation, there was the buildup, like, what are the bids going to go to, what's going to happen? And this is just like a press release. We sold one, 15 million. And for me, because I got no skin in the game, it's got nothing to do with me. It's kind of just like an article, you know, so it's not exciting for me. That's where I am with this. But for the comic community, and I guess it's great, but if we're just breaking records every month, like that's a fantastic thing. I just emotionally, it didn't connect with me, like, and still hasn't. But maybe this conversation will help that happen, or not. I don't know. But hi.
I mean, I feel the same way though. Like I think I mentioned something similar, like when I talked about this in a video yesterday, where it's like I don't really like the private sale announcements as much. I mean, that's the exact same thing we got with the Mile High Superman 1, whatever it was, like 5 years ago when it sold for 5.3 million. It was the exact same thing. It's just like news article, this book sold, new record, you know, it goes out on all the news stations and everything. And you're just like, okay, but like the Superman 1 was way more exciting, this recent one, because you're talking about it for like a month leading up to it. You just have no idea what it's really going to go for. And it builds a lot more, you know, like I said, like excitement around it. And so, yeah, I agree. It's cool, but I feel the same way. I don't have the same emotional like connection. And somebody in the comments said, like, it's hard to get excited about something that you could never afford, but I actually don't feel that way. Like, I love watching this stuff that's like really high end, go for sale. Like, to me, I think of it as the same way as like, I really like watching things like the Olympics and that kind of stuff. It's like, I like seeing, like, I don't know, things that are the best of the best out there, whether that's in sports or it's in collectibles. It's exciting to see those things, but an auction would have been, you know, a little more interesting.
Yeah. Plus, we were engaging with the Superman. Remember, we were like studying its condition. We saw the pictures and all of this. Like, we were all invested as a community. And shout out Jose. He's the one that left that comment. What's up, my man? And but I agree with you. I can get excited for things that I can't afford. It's just exciting to watch. Like, I'm with you on that.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
What about you, Neo?
That was a 9.0 as well, right?
It was. Yes. Yeah.
This looks like a way better 9.0 to me.
Well, yeah, we were just talking about that a little bit. Like, that's my feeling on it. Like, when you're looking at like comparing books and that kind of thing, like, to me, like, when I look at this one, like, for a Golden Age book, this looks like a legit 9. I actually, we were saying, like, because this has clearly been sent back in, we wouldn't be surprised if there was an attempt to try to get it to a 9.2. Like, maybe they were trying to get it to the single highest graded, because we've seen those bumps in a lot of those huge books. And so I wouldn't have been surprised if there was an attempt. And I would not have fought a 9.2 on this one. Whereas like the Superman 1, I still don't really think that's a 9. But like this one, I have zero problem with the grade on it. It's got like some spine wear. It's got, you know, a little crease up in the upper right corner. It's like, but it is a nice looking book.
What's your blood pressure if you're the one cracking, pressing, and cleaning this for the potential 9.2 bump?
Gosh, bro.
I feel like you have to have a very serious insurance policy. Like you detach one of those staples or something. Oh my God. Like just
It's interesting.
heart attack.
Do you think that this was done? Do you think that the cleaning and pressing was done at CGC? Because obviously, one of the interesting things about this is they reholdered this book.
Well, we don't know. We don't know if it was actually a regrade or just a reholder. I was saying I wouldn't be surprised if they had tried to get a 9.2 and it just didn't get there.
Yeah, maybe you can kind of, Ryan, point that out. And as people in the chat are watching, we looked it up. You mentioned a new grade date, and it's notable that now this book has Nicolas Cage collection on top of the label.
Yeah, if you go to the cert number for this one, because what I did when I saw that this sold, I went and looked at because I wanted a picture of it, and so I just happened to go look up on GPA, got the cert number for the one that I knew was the Nicolas Cage copy in 2011, and I clicked on that, went over to CGC's page, and I was like, oh man, there's pictures here now, and so then it was looked at again recently, because they didn't start doing that till like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and then when you look at the grade date, it was January 5th, so it was just back through their facility.
My gosh.
Yeah. So it is interesting that it got reholdered, has the, we'll call it the pedigree aspect to it, but now that it says from the Nicolas Cage collection, even though that's not really, a pedigree label. But I do think that it's funny how these things work, where, like you guys said, all these articles came out. It was everywhere. It was just instantly dropped upon us. CGC already had a social post ready for it. Vincent Zorzolo and Comic Connect had a social post for it. So obviously this was a big discussion amongst, these companies. They knew that this deal was going to go down. It wouldn't surprise me if after that Superman 190 sold, well, the owner of this book probably was like, okay, well, instantly, here's a repricing of the market. I mean, surely, my book that I own as a 9.0 Action 1 is more valuable than what was previously the most valuable comic book in November, the Superman 1. So it kind of makes sense to me that like you said, Ryan, like maybe it shouldn't have been surprising. Like maybe the wheels were moving for the sale, like the day after that one sold at auction. And
like nine felt like a lot for that Superman 1, but the instant it's out there, you're like, mine's a lot better.
Yeah, this is a much more desirable book, obviously. So then it was sort of like, you wonder if like the phone call started to get made and CGC was like, yeah, we'll get this in, we'll reholder it, we'll put Nicolas Cage up there. And so, maybe that's part of what you were saying, Manu, where it's like, I don't know, maybe it feels a little more corporate, this whole sale, or there's not much like natural.
There wasn't any foreplay,
build up.
It just
no foreplay. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rob?
How much do you think this book got any bump because of the backstory on this particular copy?
Sure.
Like the whole Nicolas Cage being stolen, it getting back to him, it potentially changing hands. We don't know how many times.
I mean, Nick Cage books alone get a bump in price. Like I personally look for them in auctions because they put that note on them, from the collection of Nicolas Cage, and I would love to have a Nicolas Cage book in my PC, and so they absolutely get a bump. They sell for more, but when you get up to 15 million, does it? Maybe. I feel like this is more, to me, this is more like this is the price it takes for me to sell it. You're going to pay it. And if you don't, I'll keep it. I feel like, the people that have this level of wealth and this, this type of book, they probably don't need the money. And so it's more like, it's got to be a number that they're just saying like, fine, like that's plenty for me.
Would you rather have the 9.0 white pages or this copy?
Yes, I would absolutely rather have the 9.0 white pages.
So the white pages trumps the Cage.
Oh yeah. Because it's a better looking book too.
Is that going to come out next and be a $20 million private sale? Where is that book?
Well, we think the running theory is, the same guy owned both of them. Oh. There was what was it? There was like a museum, like a presentation or whatever. It's like called like the Impossible Collection or something, where this guy owned, this like billionaire owns both of those copies. And so the theory is he's the seller. And he kept the white page and sold this one. So he still has like the best copy.
Can you believe that? So it's valued at 15 million plus, and it is in his possession.
Well, because I would value, I wouldn't be surprised if his is 20 million now.
No, that's what I'm saying. 15 million plus, right? That white
Yeah.
pager is going to add some
like,
premium to it. It's just
'cause,
above
like,
15.
Like that's the white pager that's on the screen right now, and yeah, the gain feels like it was like turned up.
Yeah,
Like,
it's definitely cranked up for
that
this
or
one.
what?
but it's still like, I think that is a superior book regardless.
That's a really good point
Yeah.
because that label's not supposed to be royal blue / purple at the top. So, you know, obviously this is a little contrasty. That
Well, it's
one,
an older
but,
label too. It is definitely a different style label.
yeah,
but
yeah, for sure, for sure.
I do think
Did
it is interesting, just to reiterate what you guys were saying, because it is a good question, Rob, that you brought up, where, yeah, if it is in fact true that the owner or the seller of this book also owns the other copy, I do think that that is a pretty clear indication of which one he values more, that he's willing to let go of this one rather than the other one. But I find it kind of interesting that you would rather have the white page one. I mean, I totally get it, but I do think it's awesome to have the Nick Cage copy. I
Oh,
do
yeah,
think
I forgot.
the
Yeah,
story
yeah.
behind it makes it really cool, in my opinion. And similar
not
to the
that
fact
there's
that,
like another 9.0 white pager coming out of the woodwork.
Well, there's a 9.4 potentially Mile High copy that is owned by the dentist, and it's like 9.294. I think it's the Mile High, and so like neither of these is likely the top of census. It's raw. It's never been
Wow.
graded.
I'm just saying it from the angle of the fact that it's the Nick Cage copy that's never being repeated.
No, and when I was just talking about like the white page being worth more than the off-white, for some reason that, even though we just got done talking about it, I neglected to factor in the fact that, yeah, maybe the Nick Cage thing is cooler than the white page, right? So, and Andrew's in the chat. What's going on, my man? He said maybe the buyer wanted the Cage copy. Like, we don't know what the negotiation was, right? Like maybe they were
that's fair.
both on
That's
the
a good
table.
point.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. Good point. Good point. Rob, what do you think about the fact that this is now the new king of collectibles right here? You know, we just leapfrogged the double signed Jordan and Kobe card, I believe, that sold for 12
13?
million.
Oh yeah, 12 something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
13.
yeah.
Well,
You know,
I mean,
so,
aren't there baseball cards though that are like 40
Yeah,
million?
there's baseball cards that have sold for more, I believe.
Yeah, like, I mean, in terms of,
They have?
yeah, well, because I mean, isn't like, because like the Honus Wagner,
the
like
Honus Wagner was
1.0 is
7
like
million.
5, but that's a 1. Like, that's a
But I thought,
PSA 1.
but had it actually been sold recently? Because I
I
think
thought
I
there
thought I
had-
looked up a list of most expensive cards, and 12 million was the top as far as
Yeah,
like
that was
the
a
Jordan.
52 mantle, I think, at an SGC 9.5.
Because I thought there had at least been talk that there was like a card that maybe it hasn't sold. Maybe it's just the estimated value that was like 40 million or something.
I remember an estimated value being placed on a card that was not available for sale. I do recall that sort of discussion last
The
year.
52 mantle sold in 2022. I think if that card sold today, it would sell for more.
So maybe it is. Maybe
so,
like in terms of sale, this might be the biggest number.
Yeah, because the last mantle that sold in a high grade was an SGC 9.5, and there are PSA 10s out there. So if the SGC 9.5 is going to do 12.6, the PSA 10 is going to do more than that, most likely.
Yeah, for sure.
So that SGC 9.5.
So comics are officially the best thing ever then.
Right now.
Comics are officially back on top. Comics, we're back, baby. We're number
Sell
one.
everything right now. And this is your moment.
All into comic. No, all into comics. Sell everything else.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this. Looking ahead, you know, do you think that this does anything for the comic book market as far as eyeballs, the casual collector, people coming into things, or do you think that steam was kind of already blown for the Superman 190 copy?
No, I think it's still, I mean, for the top of the market, for those super wealthy investors that are actually having these conversations about these investment funds and so on and so forth, I think this plays perfectly into those agendas and what we're going to see play out in 2026 in that market, which I do kind of look at as separate from the general market, right? The market that, for all intents and purposes, we're a part of and our community's a part of, right? Not that we don't know people that can't afford these sorts of things, but like I have no clue who's buying a $15 million comic book. It's not in my sphere, not yet at least. And but I think for that demo and for that conversation, this definitely keeps that group excited and motivated into 2026. And I think that's the point. You know, I think the Ken Goldens, the grading companies, the auction houses, this is great for their client list and keeping them excited. I think this is going to absolutely have an effect on values in 2026 for the top of census type stuff, or the top of the world type stuff, in fact.
So a couple things, like there's a comment in the chat where it says, "Is this the 8.5 copy that they bumped to a 9?" No, this was a 9, and it's still a 9. This was a 9 when it sold in 2011, and it's still a 9 today. There's no 8.5 to a 9 that got bumped. There was the Mile High 8 that got bumped to an 8.5, and then it got jumped by the 9, the Superman side, which we know probably didn't make that person super happy. But
right.
I mean, in terms of the comic market, yeah, I mean, it's much more to the higher end, but I'll kind of relate it to something else that's like super hot right now. And that's like the metals, like silver. And so like silver, one of the reasons it's just like started to go even more crazy is like you have general news coverage, and it gets to people who aren't familiar with that. And now they aren't necessarily the best to have join your hobby, because a lot of times they'll jump in and then things will level off or they'll drop or whatever, and they'll immediately leave, and you end up with the comic boom type stuff and all of that. But I do think it's still, overall, it's probably a positive to have this out there as just like getting it in people's minds that, hey, maybe this is something that I'm interested in. Maybe I want to go check it out. And if it's that whole thing, like if you convert 1%, that's a huge deal in a hobby like comics.
It also could just have the effect that the Superman had, an effect of just shaking other things out of the woodwork. Like someone else now sitting on some Grail that's not Action Comics 1. Maybe it's a first Batman. Maybe it's who knows what, a high grade AF-15.
Well, like we never get to see a high end tech. I would love to see a high grade Tech 27. Like they never come out. And that would be
things
cool
like this. Sometimes we see it in cards all the time. When a big thing like this goes off, people start looking around at what they have, and they're like, maybe it's time to let this, hit the auction and see what happens.
Yeah. You know, that's interesting. I wonder if there's, I know there's the potential, depending on how that would play out, to have a negative effect on values, right? Because if too many people, not that everybody in the world has 10 to $20 million copies of anything, but if too many people decide to try to cash out at the same time, all it really takes is for one super hyped up potential sale, or something that was super marketed and suggested to be worth 16, 17 million to not hit that mark, for the sentiment or the narrative to be like, are comics crashing again? This didn't hit the number, right? So if too many come to market,
I would never make a video like that.
Right, exactly, right? So if too many come to market, can they be absorbed? There's always that question about, can a high sale be duplicated, right? This is a private sale. We don't know the scenario. We don't know the negotiation. If this came to auction, this buyer's out of the market. He already shelled out 15 million. So he's not going to be part of bidding up the next big item. How many people are there willing to play ball, and how many games are they willing to play ball in, right? Like, so that's always interesting. And I wonder if that's akin to if everyone's selling a stock. Well, actually, no, it is separate, but I do think there's a potential for it to go the other direction should things not succeed in the way that this might suggest they could. But if they come out slowly with enough time in between, then maybe it just keeps going up.
I mean, that is always an issue. Like when you have a big sale and it pulls other books out, they inevitably like sell for a little less each time. And it's like because we saw that a lot during the comic boom. Like people were holding stuff back where they were just afraid to sell because they were like, oh, it's just going to go up forever, and if I sell it, I'll never be able to get it again. And finally you get that one person that's like, I'm selling mine, and it hits that that's that like peak on those charts, and then it starts like stepping down after that. And so now, I mean, that's tough to do in a book like this, but I feel like we kind of saw it with, we could say with like Batman 1. Like Batman 1 over the last few years, we have seen come up for sale quite a few times. And I feel like it did that. So it can happen with like Grail level books. It's not just, your like kind of more, $5,000 to $10,000 type dollar books where they're a little more, achievable for people. It happens with the super high end too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Derek said, "Did anyone report the sale to Go Collect?" Ryan did, didn't he? Didn't you already? You should.
I have not. I have not reported this, but I
Because no
wouldn't be
one knows
surprised.
about this sale, so we
Well,
got to report it.
well, I mean, part of this whole thing, like that private sale, that last one for the Superman 1 Mile High that happened, that Comic Connect did as well. It's in GPA, and that wasn't anywhere that it would be pulled in. So it's like, just because
Oh.
they're private sales, like they will put those sales in, you know, especially when they're marketed like this.
Wow. Okay.
So I wouldn't be, I don't know if
I'll
this was in
definitely
GPA yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets added.
Very cool.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about Superman in a second, but before we do, we got a couple of super chats to answer here. Shout out to Haratin for the
Yo, what
$2
up?
Canadian. He says, "Sup, homies, Haunt of Fear 4 or 19." I already did the work for you guys. This is Haunt of Fear 4 with the mummy cover. Pretty cool. And then we got Haunt of Fear 19 with the
4.
double head
4.
decapitation.
4.
19.
What?
I like
They're both good.
I like the 19 more, but I mean they're definitely like they're very different styles. One is the early horror stuff where it's not quite as like violent, and the other one is like when they've been ramping it up as you're getting close to the Comics Code Authority being put in place. But for me, that double bladed axe is one of the first PCH books I saw, and I was just like, that cover is ridiculous. And so that's
Ryan
why
just
that one,
Ryan likes the violence.
Yeah,
He likes the violence.
Ryan chose violence.
Haratin also says, for another $2 Canadian, Swag, this is on your channel, FF1 or Hulk #1. I'm going to open that up for the floor. I think I know you guys know what those books look like.
You're giving me a lot of credit.
I actually like the FF1 cover. If we're going just strictly off cover, I'd go FF1.
Oh man, if it's a nice copy, I'd go Hulk 1.
Hulk 1's
If you're
a cool cover.
just because it's so tough, like, and it looks so good when it's like doesn't have any creases or anything like that on it. But if it's a kind of like a low to mid grade copy, I'm going FF1.
I go FF1 just because it's a bit more iconic to me and it's a bit more recognizable to me. And I'm not a huge Hulk guy. And not that I'm a huge FF1 guy either, but I'm more FF1 than Hulk. So that's the way I'll vote.
What if it
Like
had
for like value for me, I'm going Hulk 1 just to add to the conversation.
There you go.
what if it had a Mark Jewelers insert?
Which one has it? I'll take whichever
do I
one
sign
has
up?
the Mark Jewelers insert. Yeah.
All right, a couple more here from David Schneider for the $4.99. Appreciate you, David. He says, Neo, would you grade any PMG, VEG/NM? Have you been to Burbank Card Shop, Depeche Mode fan? Cross grade all SGC PMG slabs.
Well, that's a lot there from David Schneider. I
Yeah, it
threw
is.
this in the chat too. No, maybe.
All right.
Very succinct. I have actually been to Burbank Sports Cards. He also says for another $4.99, Neo, best practices, clean fiber cloth used on PMG metal card. You can also answer this, Manu. Any video best practice to prep card and what to use for PSA submission at Burbank Shop?
If you're going to use a microfiber on a PMG, be very gentle. I probably would not personally use one. And then I personally don't think I have any card prep videos. I think I have a couple live streams where I went like looking through cards for potential grading, but I don't have a specific video that I could cite. I don't know if you do, Manu.
No, I don't have a specific video, but I will say when people say microfibers come, I mean, that is what people say, but microfibers come in a lot of different pile sizes, shapes. Yeah, don't you use that on cards?
Yeah.
Okay.
Judging you from that lower left corner.
Yeah, that's a choice. I mean, listen, if that has anything stuck to it, it's going to scratch the card. And the idea of that one having the pile, having those loops that could hold on to things, that's not good. But if it's fresh, if you're confident that it's fresh, it's not sitting around in a pile of dust. You don't also dust your table with it, because that's what I use for dusting rags in the comic room, essentially. But on cards or anything with a smooth surface that I want to clean, I have scoured the internet for the softest. They don't even look like microfibers, right? Like when you're using a magnifying glass, you can see that it has fibers. It's almost like a sort of like a suede typexture, but it's so low pile, so fine that it looks uniform. It doesn't look like it has texture to it. It's akin to what you would clean like a sensitive screen with on some tech or expensive sunglasses, stuff like that. and I've never used any chemicals or any sort of products, but I just go with hot breath and the absolute softest cloth possible. And you might have to purchase a few before you land on one that you're comfortable using and handling, and then practice on cards that don't matter to you so that you can get familiar with the rhythm of swiping from in to out. You never want to come across the edge because you might catch the edge, and you don't want to do swirls unless you are comfortable with that card and you don't think swirls will leave any sort of micro hazing. Anyone that's polished paint on cars, it's the same practices but on a microscopic level.
Very well said. Very good advice. And there you guys have it. But going back into the show, picking up on the Action Comics #1, $15 million, the world record sale. I thought it was a great point that you guys kind of said where, a sale like this, maybe it doesn't get your Darkhawk 1 sold, but at least it starts to create a little bit of momentum and velocity. And we've already seen it. I mean, I even if we're counting the Superman #190 sale, that obviously moved, someone to be motivated to either buy the Action 1 or to end up selling the Action 1, however the deal actually went down. And we also had some other movement for Superman comic books, but shout out to Darren from the Fantastic Collection who got a little bit of a bump on his Superman 1. You get the 9.0 into the door here at CGC, the highest grade copy, and they start to think, well, if this can get a 9.0, maybe my 7.0 can get a 7.5. He says, big thanks to CGC Comics for the press and clean. But what do you guys think about this bump? Nice little couple $100K you made on your book with that 0.5, right?
I think so.
I guess Matt Nelson did reach out and
no,
didn't we talk about this like a month ago?
Yeah, well,
like
this is a change. I mean, that's what happened from that, right? Like,
yeah, this is we discussed it. We discussed what it meant for Darren to leave that comment. We talked about what we thought it meant. We corrected, or no, we expressed what Matt Nelson told us about not the arrangement, but the conversation, and the result is that. It did get to Florida. It did get analyzed, and it happened. Like this is it. This is full circle, and I think Darren's gonna. I mean, does anyone know? Is Darren gonna get this available for sale soon, or what's the story there?
I have no idea. I mean, I imagine who knows? But I'm guessing it's the book that he's not planning on selling, because otherwise, like, he sold the other big books at that Heritage auction a while ago, like Batman and that kind of thing. So my guess is maybe this is one that just stays with him, but who knows? You can do whatever he wants with this, his book. But I think the one thing we talked about, we have talked about with this though, is that it was pressed and cleaned by CGC or CCS. And historically, like, people haven't experienced the best results from CCS pressing. But when you look at this book, they did actually do what looks to be a good job on it. Like, you see, like, it legitimately like flattened out creases and this kind of thing. And so we were kind of wondering who worked on it. Right. Like, did Matt Nelson maybe do that work himself? And that, which would be pretty cool, if that's the case, but I have no idea.
And we're just speculating. We're just talking, but I want to ask you, like, if Matt Nelson did do the work, do you think that's a bad thing? I think that's reasonable and understandable.
I think that's totally fine.
Exactly.
I have no issue with that. I'm just saying, like, it feels different than a lot of other experiences I've heard people have especially with older books. Like, a lot of times, like, if you're talking about CCS, like, you use it for modern stuff after you've had a signature or that kind of thing, because it's generally known that they do like cold pressing. But like, this is a high-end golden age book where I've heard a lot of people have issues with, like pop staples and that kind of stuff, like when they've gone through there. And so, like, this looked like it was legitimate, like, solid work on that book. And so I'm curious what the difference is there, with that one versus I
feel like it's just logical, if you have a book of that caliber, like, to have a conversation with the people at CGC. Like, I mean, like, I'm just speculating, but like, if you own that book or you're Darren, wouldn't you just go up to Matt Nelson and say, hey, I'd like to try to clean and press and get a bump out of this. I think I can, would CCS do it? And can you oversee it through the company? Because I mean, it's a known fact that reasonable. Matt Nelson started CCS, and that's how he got into CGC. So I feel like there's probably a little bit of hand holding. You could probably argue, like, maybe he shouldn't be doing it if he's also grading or whatever. But at the same time, I don't know if people agree with the result, they agree with the result, so it's an interesting thing. I just feel like if you have this caliber of book, you're going to
You're not just sending it into the mail and letting it fly.
Exactly. I think the same way it's getting a different sort of attention when it's on the grading desk is the same way it's going to get a different sort of attention when it's getting prepped for grade. It's millions of dollars. It just makes sense. I couldn't imagine it's just going to get a simple, like they don't even clean. CCS doesn't clean when you opt for their pressing. They don't clean anything. They'll blow a speck of dust off it and give it a cold press. This thing got a real service. This thing got what the book needed, and that is not the service that you sign up for when you order a press from their website.
Do we think that this and the Action 1 got the Banana Gate case and the bloated case, or did it get a
I would bet $15 million that this book is probably encapsulated flat.
I heard that the buyer was willing to pay 16 million, but then he saw that the book was bent in the middle, and so he came back to 15.
Yo, you know what? I take my bet back. What if no, it can't be. This has to be flat. Oh my gosh.
I mean, generally from what I've seen, it's more you see that with the newer books.
Yeah.
Not so much with the Golden Age books.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Shout out to Frankie who says, "What up, guys?" from Compsy. Shout out to you, Frankie.
Compsy. What's going on? That's the card selling website, right? Yes. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Very cool.
All right, well, gentlemen, it is 2026, and to everybody in the chat, I told my fine co-hosts off stream that I want to do a little bit of a game going into 2026. We're going to make some big, bold predictions, but I have kind of a special way I want to do it. I want to have a conversation about who we think the biggest winners and losers are going to be this year. This is just for funsies. We can have a conversation about it. And then at the end of the year, we can look back and see how wrong you guys were and how right I was. But, we can just kind of go.
You're making me nervous about my choices now that I'm going to be held to these.
We will have receipts. Everyone in the chat will hold us accountable for our predictions. No. It's just for fun. So 2 categories that I want to kind of mainly talk about, and this is just to spur some conversation. I want to talk about biggest winners and losers that you guys see for collectible verticals, meaning comic books, trading cards. And it could be a little more specific, Bronze Age specifically, modern specifically, however you guys want to interpret it for yourselves. And then biggest winners and losers for the hobby. And that can be something hyper specific. Like the biggest winner in 2026 could be the 99 newsstand, and the biggest loser could be Swagglehoss, whatever you want to say, or you could say Spider-Man collectors, whatever. But let's kind of kick it around the room. And I'm going to start with you, Rob. Maybe we can start with collectibles, but what would you say? Let's start with losers here. Who do you think is going to be the biggest loser in collectibles in 2026?
CBCS, because they might not exist.
That's my answer too. That's it. Done.
Right. Well, that one's going to be the hobby. That's going to be the hobby one. But so say more on
you
that.
confuse me with these categories.
I just did one overall.
This is let's talk CBCS. Why do you think they're going to be a loser? I mean, you already said they're not going to say more.
Because they may no longer be a limited liability company or a corporation or whatever the heck they are.
Do you think that it's legitimately, would you guess that in the calendar year, we are going to hear an announcement of them closing their doors, or is it just going to die a slow death?
I think that they close their doors in 2026.
Wow. Wow.
Man. I don't think it's going to happen that quick, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either.
That's fast. That is fast, especially.
I have no inside information on this. I don't think they have a ton of volume coming in to begin with. So I actually don't think it's going to be that big of a deal for them to close. Now, it could be they close that door and then immediately hang a PSA comic book sign out in front of it. So I don't know that like the employees are going to, they might still be grading comics. It might just be with a red hat instead of a blue hat. But
yeah, I agree with you. I do think that, we talked about it on the last show that CBCS was, it was probably a death knell once collectors acquired Beckett. So I do believe that it makes sense that 2026 is going to kind of be a not so good year for them overall. But let me kick it over to you, Ryan. You got a biggest loser, hobby or collectible, whatever you want to say. It doesn't matter.
My biggest loser that I have is Absolute Batman Spec. That is what I'm.
Oh wow!
Oh,
Shots
for
fired!
2026.
Everyone in the
guys.
chat is
So-
is unsubscribing to Automatic right now. Let's hear more about this.
So I mean, my general thought is I look at it as what are the things, like for my biggest losers that I was looking at, what are the things that have gone like this, like especially leading into the end of the year. And so I mean, Absolute Batman, like we know there are a ton of those books out there, and they're still like were climbing into the end of the year, going like $400 for a 9.8, and it's just I feel like we're just going to see that volume overwhelm the demand, and it's just going to start to fall, because I see it like a lot of the other hype books that happened over, and I like it that Absolute Batman is really popular, but I just don't see the values holding. And so I see it like the whole like the Venom stuff that happened early on in COVID, like the what was it, the Immortal Hulk, you know, all those books that like they did this, and then because they're so modern, you know, there's so many of them and they're all such nice condition, they just fall off. You know, it's just they're like the conditions just make it so that you get too high of a volume. And Absolute Batman has been printed, I think, way more than any of those. And so I think that's just it's gonna fall off. That is my prediction.
We'll say this. Let me. I'll give you the. I agree with you case, and then the I disagree with you case, just for the sake of conversation. I totally agree with you in the sense that once it's known that the property is hot, then that's when everybody starts to like you say, spec on it. So now you're at like issue number whatever 15, and people are like buying up. Oh well, this is the origin of the Absolute Batman mobile, and it's sort of like, come on guys, like now we're really, you know, jumping the shark here, buying up a bunch of these copies, and those are rarely the ones that hold value, because it's like by the time people become aware of it, it's sort of already too late. Like even the books that like you said and referred to, like the Venom, like maybe Null still has some value. Immortal Hulk, maybe the first issue still has some value. Something is Killing the Children, a comic book that was very hot. You know, the first couple issues might still have some value, but by the time the series gets popular, like say issue 16, 17, 18, you know, a year later, those comics get bought up a lot and spec'd on, and then they have no value. So it's like only a couple will survive. And maybe Absolute Batman 1 will still be a key 5-10 years from now. But all these ones that are selling right now, it's very unlikely.
And that's the thing. Like I see, like maybe 5-10 years from now, or we'll say 5 years from now, it's probably still a key, and it's probably a $200 to $250 book. You know, like it. But the fact that it's sitting at 400 and climbing still, I don't see that. Like to me, it's like it's one of those things where it's like we saw this all happen, right? We all lived through COVID.
You don't understand, Ryan. You don't understand.
So it's
this
like,
time it's different.
This time is different.
What's that? It's that clip from oh my god, that show where he's like, but it might work for us, you know, like the but the example I like to use is like Raphael #1. Like that's even like a vintage book, like 1985, I think 85, and that book spiked, and people, you know, like in COVID, and then it just happened to be that nobody had been getting it graded because it just didn't have enough value, and then they just got poured into CGC, and then the values have plummeted. And so like that's the type of thing I see happening, is that Absolute Batman earlier this year was like $100 9.8. It's now a $400 9.8. Like that is for sure worth sending in if you can sell that book for $400. And so yeah, I just that's kind of what I think is going to happen there.
It's a good one. I like that. We'll definitely check in back.
Yes,
on
Arrested Development. Arrested Development. That's what it was. God.
Hopping over to you, Manu. Do you got a biggest loser prediction for 2026?
There are no losers in 2026.
No, Mr. Positive.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Okay, listen. So I was thinking while you guys were talking, for some reason I didn't think about the losers. I thought about, you know, sort of my general answers to what I'm optimistic about in 2026, and I couldn't even, like, I was like, I don't even pay attention. You know, I don't know, because I don't know what sort of stupid shit people are buying, to be honest with you. So I don't know what to call out, right? Like it could be the Absolute Batman thing, but I like the Absolute Batman thing. And I think if the book goes from 400 to 250, that's not that big of a loss. So I'm not going to call it the biggest loser. Like who gives a
It's the Spawn VHS tape.
You could say it, Manu. Marvel cards are going to zero next year.
EMGs maybe. No, sorry. No, I don't even want to say that. I got a lot
on PSA 10s. I've heard they're very
yeah.
No. So shout out to AJ Curated, and shout out to Derek for saying the very kind and optimistic things about the Malibu Sun PSA 10. I really appreciate that. And obviously, I'm optimistic about that in the new year. And McClay's with us. What's going on? But no, and I'm not bashing modern Marvel cards or PMGs. I got a lot of friends that collect that stuff. I don't really know why some of them are as expensive as they are, but it's not my game. So I'm not worried about it. But yeah, I put a little bit of thought to it, and I couldn't come up with anything to tell you that I, like, with conviction or with any sort of care, think is going to be the biggest loser of 2026. Labubus, or did they already lose? Like, if they haven't lost, it's going to be Labubus.
I think that that's a good one.
That's
Because
it. If they're not
2025
already
was a
gone,
huge year for Labubus, you know,
yeah.
and obviously it tailed off at the end of the, you know, the calendar year.
Funko
but at the
Pops are
same
going to be the
time-
biggest losers. If they're still around, they're going to be
What
less
about
around.
paid PSA dinners?
He's just
No,
mad
those
because
gotta
he
be
How will
big
he
dinners.
eat?
PSA shield dinners are going to be huge next year.
there's gonna be, listen, I'm not, you know what?
That's the biggest winner.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
All right,
yeah.
well, hold on. Let me get in my biggest loser, okay? Because I
Okay, yeah,
unfairly
yeah.
had more time to think about this, and I have what I think are a couple interesting ones that we can talk about. Okay, this is my honorable mention. Honorable mention, and I don't actually know if I actually think that this is going to happen, but I'm going to throw it out there. Biggest loser for 2026 are going to be Frank Frazetta OA buyers in 2025 and Todd McFarlane OA buyers in 2025, because I think we got lots of McFarlane and Frazetta like hitting the market, going up for sale this year because of what we talked about kind of previously, where it's like velocity begets velocity. So it's like all of a sudden the Frazetta stuff sells, and
I'll
I'm
buy
doing
the
this honorable
McFarlane because there's a lot of
Okay.
that stuff potentially out there. And Frazetta, I
But
think
you're
it's a
throwing it in the
story, so-
biggest loser bag?
no, but hear me out. Biggest loser buyer if you buy, because I think like that like for instance, we even had the Frazetta oil painting that had the reserve auction for 10 million and it didn't sell. And I don't know, like, you know, OA is only supposed to go up. Okay, I'm just having an interesting conversation here. But what do you think of my honorable mention?
It's like that one would have gone up because it sold for $1 million back in what, like 2009. It probably
Yeah.
would have sold for like 8 or 9 million. You know, it's like, it's just that it was set at 12. And so, or 12.5 or whatever. Or no, I think they were they at the 25% yet? I don't know. So we'll say 12. So like the Frazetta stuff, I feel like I still would believe that is going to continue with strength just because there isn't that much of it. Like even in a big auction, you see, you know, maybe 5 pieces to 8 pieces. The McFarlane stuff, I mean, he did a lot, and those are getting big numbers, and that could pull out a lot of artwork. And so that there's the potential that, yes, somebody that paid 250 grand or whatever it was for a page, that may have been, you know, like a tough pill to swallow if like a page then sells for 100,000.
That was a crazy sale, that 250. It was a gorgeous page, beautiful page. I absolutely loved that page. But wow, someone really wanted that thing. That was a big number for that page. I don't think other pages should be compared to that price. I think that's an outlier, and it just speaks to those 2 people that were going for it. But it was a gorgeous page.
Yeah. Shout out to Brian McClay in the chat, who actually also said maybe McFarlane autograph buyers. They also might be big losers in 2026 when we get all of the McFarlane signed books back. Although I don't know, man, the McFarlane signed,
it'll have a little
buyers,
dip and then it's just gonna like take off again.
But that was my honorable mention. I just thought it would be interesting to kind of float that out there. A little bit of a rage bait for the chat. I understand. It's good.
Biggest losers will be eBay scammers in 2026. So we're gonna expose them.
They'll keep
say
winning.
more about that. See, that could have been a great one. Biggest eBay scam losers right there.
I stole it from a friend in chat. Someone said something about someone said we should make a video about eBay scammers to block, like a list of them, and that made me think about it. But no, I think the community gets more and more vocal every year. I think we pay attention to things that piss us off, and we're more vocal. So I think people that are doing wrong by the community are set up to lose. Oh, Neo, not to derail this, but I didn't finish watching the whole video, and I want to. But like, speaking of, for anyone in the chat or anyone watching this on the replay that doesn't know, Neo did a video, card community's talking about this. People are using AI to make their slabs that they purchase from eBay look like they're broken. And then they're opening up return requests because on eBay, and I didn't watch the rest of the video, so Neo probably added a bunch of color to this, but on eBay, if you do a damage request, it doesn't matter if the seller doesn't want to accept your return. It doesn't matter if the seller's account is no returns account. If you say item arrived damaged, that sort of process is beginning. And then from my previous experiences, the seller has a certain amount of days to provide you a shipping label. And if the seller doesn't, eBay refunds you and you get to keep your stuff, right? If the seller's not willing to participate. So that was nasty. And even Neo was like, you could have predicted this, and I didn't even think about that. But yeah, they're using AI to make their slabs look broken, and then they're opening up return cases. Neo, I mean, Swag, is it okay if we take just a minute to talk about this right now? Like, I want to ask Neo, what is eBay doing? Are they refunding people? How is eBay governing
So
this?
the trick is they're targeting low value stuff
Mm,
because the second you ask for them to say, the second you say go ahead and mail it back, then
just
they
take it
usually
down.
back out of it.
Got it.
But what they're doing is they're targeting like $20, $25 stuff
Mm,
where the seller is like, this isn't even worth my time
yep.
to send you a $5 shipping label
Yep.
and get it back. And then what am I going to do with a broken slab? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to pay $15 to get it reholdered. I already lost money on this thing. Screw it. Just keep it.
Okay.
So
That makes sense. Yeah.
that's the angle that they're going for. Like there was some even communication with people that were doing this where they were like, okay, yeah, no problem, send it back to me. And then they didn't end up opening the return request.
That makes sense.
Because it was all through like the chat. It was like, hey, this showed up damaged. They didn't like officially go in and like request the return. It was more like asking for it.
Yeah,
And
they were
then
just
it's
hoping the
kinda
guy would
like
just
if
say,
you
"I'll
hit-
give you a
if you hit on a
refund."
couple of them, great. If they ask for the return, like to send it back, then they just don't send it back, and it's like no harm, no foul.
I love when I have like I'm very particular when I buy, and I'm not afraid to return something or at least have the conversation with someone that I buy it from. And I can tell when someone thinks that I'm not serious and they're calling my bluff, right? Instead of offering any reasonable solution, they're like, just send it back. I'm the guy that sends it back. I know they're pissed off when I'm actually like, all right, great. I'll start the request right now, dummy. And I send it back. I'm serious about that.
Yeah, but it could easily happen in comic books too. So, like, you could easily AI an image to show a crack in a CGC slab.
You know, it used to be believe none of what you hear, half of what you see, but we've zeroed that out. It's none and none. That's the age we're in now.
The other scary part is, and this did not come up because I haven't seen this yet, but I'm sure that it happens. You know, like in a lot of Facebook groups and online, people are like, you know, coin your photo or whatever. Like that's basically worthless now.
What is coin your photo? Like put a water? What is that?
Like you would put like a sticky note that says like your name and the date on it.
Oh
to, like,
yeah, that's
that you actually have it in your hand, and that's completely meaningless now with AI.
Agreed.
Yeah. AI, people who are not aware of AI scams could be a biggest loser in 2026. But
biggest losers of 2026 editors. Sorry, go ahead, carry on.
Definitely, that could be another one. I have a real one. Okay, my honorable mention was the art went a little bit of a riff, but here's my actual biggest loser of 2026. I actually think it's going to be the Never Slabbers. I think the Never Slabbers, the sentiment of anti-slab culture, specifically in comic books, I think is really starting to taper off. For the last couple of years, you know, like the free the book, you know, crack it out. Slabs are going to zero. Nobody wants to buy slabs. That was the conversation, and mostly that was the sentiment in the culture. But now that we've had these like big monster sales, now that PSA and CGC is rolling, now that signed books are so popular, people are getting their absolute Batman 1 signed, Todd McFarlane signed, signature series, authentications, all this stuff. I think slab books are generally back. And more importantly, I start to see the people that, you know, Ryan, we talk about this all the time. You start to see sometimes those comment sections where it's like, that didn't go the way that you thought it was going to go when you were kind of putting out the anti-slab sentiment. So I think Never Slabbers are going to have a rough year.
Yeah, Captain America. That Captain America meme is always doing some work on the top of those, comment sections.
Yeah,
but no, I mean, they're always going to be I feel like they're generally a vocal minority, and you're always going to kind of have that. But I have noticed in Facebook groups, which are normally like the hotbed of like anti-slabbers, that I feel like it has softened some. But you definitely still see it out there. But I mean, what it's going to take is it's going to take the grading companies not having controversies. And CGC did a pretty good job last year about, we talked about that in the last stream, where it's like they did have the bulge gate thing, but that didn't really like seem like it affected enough people. The Ben gate thing is still an ongoing issue, but people seem to not care as much about it anymore. And so overall, like they had a pretty reasonable year for controversies. And I think that like that's what they have to do. It's just like they just got to grade the books, get them back, have people like, I mean, I've noticed like my slabs, I haven't had any in any of my returns so far, like, you know, knock on wood or whatever, but like that like no crack slabs. I haven't had like scratching issues. Like there are things that they've changed that have improved that experience. And that's what it needs to be. It needs to be that the experience doesn't have to be like some like mind blowing thing, but it should just be like, this works. Like, and if they do that, there's less to complain about.
Absolutely. Shout out to your meme game is weak for the $4.99 super chat. We appreciate you. Your meme game is weak.
Thank you.
All right. Well, those are the biggest losers, but you know, most of the people going into 2026, everybody in the chat, these fine gentlemen on the screen, we're all winners. And there's going to be some big winners in 2026. So let me go back to you again, Neo. Let's give your prediction for biggest winners in 2026. What you got for me?
I got a good one for this one. So as has been well documented between me and Swags, cards kind of lead the way on nonsense. But like whatever happens with us usually trickles down to you guys eventually. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes a year. And last year, 2025 was the year of like all-time great player cards performing extremely well. Like people that we grew up with, like Griffey's and Jordans and Kobe's, all that stuff is climbing. The 89 Upper Deck Griffey is almost back to COVID peak prices. Like it's almost back to 2020, 2021 prices. So I wonder if in 2026, or I guess my prediction is, do we see that transition over to like ebooks starting to rebound again? Like you did your comic book index at the end of the year. It was kind of a meh year overall. Not terrible, but not like anything to write home about, good or bad. You know, do we start seeing the Hulk 181s, the giant size X-Men's, the FF1s, like all that sort of like well-known, because a lot of the cards that performed well was stuff that's pretty common that just people like and that is safe and that people just want in their collection. And those prices have been stagnant now for a couple of years. So do we see this as potentially a time that people swoop in to start buying this stuff up and we start seeing the prices go the other way? So I guess my prediction would be that when you do your end of the year forecast next year, that at least keys, like true keys, not like random shit, actually performs well this year.
It's my answer is partly that too. So I'm with you. Yeah, I agree.
No, I definitely agree. I think, you know, I've said it that I think the macro economy has the most to do with everything, but I do think that, you know, I know that the sentiment is so low on the MCU, but I just feel like by the time you get to December and people start to see like that Robert Downey Jr., Doctor Doom stuff, Avengers, like that movie's going to do extremely well. People are going to go watch it. And not that movie is just going to save all our random spec books, but like I'm just saying, like sentiment within, sentiment within slabs, and like you said, the actual keys is starting to get better. It didn't go down by like 50% like it did in previous years, so people aren't as so quick to just like make fun of like your AF-15 losing $10,000 of value. You know what I mean? It's like people are just generally more positive to it, and so I think that there's more things in the culture that are kind of opening the doors to start to feel like, yeah, I can make a video of like, hey, 5 cool comics to buy, and people aren't allergic to that type of content anymore. People are like, hey, like that's cool. Like, yeah, what do you think is a cool book to buy? Like, so yeah, maybe by the end of the year, the movie comes out and people are, you know, excited about comic books again. I would certainly love that if that were the case.
I have an honorable mention too, and this one's going to go both directions. TCG. TCG is going to have a hell of a year, and people are also going to get burned on TCG because some of it, like Pokemon, One Piece, that stuff's probably going to have a really good year. I think people are going to get burned on the opposite side to make this a two-way prediction. I think people are going to get burned trying to chase the next hot thing, maybe like League of Legends Earthbound.
How
or-
dare you?
Or some other one that we don't even know about yet, like Gundam. All of a sudden, like has a TCG that people are going like. These
Yu-Gi-Oh's
ones that
coming
kind
back.
of come out of the woodwork. I think some folks are going to get bored on those. Thinking that's like, oh, this is the next One Piece. We're going to the moon, baby, or this is Pokemon 2.0. And as we've discussed before, in the history of TCG, there's basically been 2.5 in 30 years. Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and you could kind of throw Yu-Gi-Oh in there a little bit. And now you could probably add One Piece to the mix to some degree, because that TCG's been around for a little bit. The show's been around forever, but it's still, in the grand scheme of things, unproven compared
Pretty
to
unproven.
Powerhouse.
I mean, that's the interesting thing, because for like, I'll say this because it ties in. My specific loser was One Piece. And it's because I feel like One Piece has gotten so insane going into the end of this year that I could see it carrying through some into the beginning of the year, but I wouldn't be surprised if it has people are paying like 20 grand, 10 grand for cards right now that just came out very recently. Like it's gone nuts. Whereas like 6 months ago, One Piece was sitting on shelves, not selling. And so like that's, it goes with my theme of like the stuff that's gone like this. I'm just like, it could long-term be good, but I feel like it could burn people that are like buying into the absolute hype that's going on right now with that product.
It's kind of like, to that point, like, you know how things get in front of themselves? Like, remember back in the day when people used to buy a comic book related to a movie? It would be like, oh, if you bought it like 6 months before the trailer came out, you could still get it for cheap. And then it was like, or like people would buy it like right at the trailer, and then people would buy it like right at the movie. But then like the goalposts kept getting moved to where like it would be like, this movie's going to come out in 3 years, and that's when people were buying it. And it was like, it's way too in front of, you know, you're putting the cart before the horse here. And it's kind of working the same way, where the One Piece hype is due to the fact of, well, it could be like Pokemon, versus where Pokemon actually just has, I mean, this is the biggest global brand in the world. So I kind of feel like, yeah, it could end up very poorly for a lot of the One Piece buyers. But Rob, I kind of stepped on you a little bit. You were going to jump in.
I was just going to say the only thing, if we look back at last year, because last year was the year of Pokemon, that market stayed hot for pretty much the entire year. I mean, it tailed off a little bit around Thanksgiving and Christmas, but it was hot from December 2024 through basically October of 2025. And even its cool off was not really that big of a drop, and it's already starting to pick back up again. And One Piece, and this I don't know because I don't know enough about the cards themselves, but at quick glances, when I just kind of look at things, some of the population counts on those aren't super high. But I also don't know how much people just have not graded yet, but might just be sitting in binders or whatever.
They're apparently really high quality printing. So I guess like they get high grades.
Yeah, they basically PSA 10 at like a 90 some +% rate, and you have a legit shot at pristine 10s and BGS black labels. So there's another, which I want to dig into this for a video of like, why would you pay if you know that almost every card that doesn't have significant damage on it basically grades at like a 95+%? Why are you paying a huge premium for a gem mint card when a raw card is most likely a gem mint card, as long as you visually don't see like chipping or something crazy on the back? It's like, should they have a huge graded premium because they're printed so well?
Yeah, like Pokemon cards are printed like crap. Like I feel like Pokemon, you have like a shit chance at getting a 10 a lot of times. Whereas like, yeah, these ones sound like they are, it's a different story.
Everything Bandai prints grades extremely well. So it's whatever situation they got going on works really well.
Because they do the Dragon Ball Z stuff too, right?
I think so. And then some other ones.
Let's go over to you, Ryan, for biggest winner here. You got one to throw out for the chat.
I have one that I have no familiarity with, but I was just thinking about this. And so I've got soccer graded cards because of the World Cup. So
it's so funny you said that, because I'm sorry not to jump on you, but I had that written down as it's not my pick, but I wanted to ask Rob if this could be a winner, but carry on.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just like I know that like I watch some card channels, and I know soccer cards there are definitely cards that have some pretty serious value, especially like the ones that are like on card sigs and all that kind of stuff. And so I can see soccer cards definitely growing this year. Now I do think that 2027 may be a pretty rough year for those cards, but 2026 I think it could be a very big winner is the soccer graded cards. And kind of like my specific one with that is I was saying like Lionel Messi, if he decides to play, like that could be, you know, a really big winner in that sphere if you're already into it, or if you're buying early, or like specking that, you know, like because right now they don't know, you know, and so I think that could be a big deal for him as well.
Important to point out that this year, if you guys don't know, it is going to be the World Cup, which would make sense as to why, you know, the soccer cards might pop off. But Rob, what do you think about that? I mean, any soccer card potential movement, is that the Panini brand? Can Panini turn it around in 2026?
They both have access to various different soccer licenses. I don't know soccer super well. It is the least of the knowledge I have in the card base, but it is a popular take that soccer cards are going to go to the moon this year. So it could almost will itself there, whether it actually happens or not. But I do worry that you could see both in the same year where they take off up to the World Cup, and then the back half of the year is them losing everything that they gained leading up.
It's very possible. Sell into the hype.
Yeah, because it is in the US this year. It's in New York City, so that gives it a little extra oomph, I think. And Fanatics is going to market the hell out of it. Their Fanatics Fest conference is the same weekend in the same city as the World Cup final.
Maybe more specifically, Ryan, the winner should be soccer card holders, bag holders, and sellers are going to be the big winners.
Yeah, the ones that have them going into it probably are in the best position.
Yeah. All right, Manu, you got a biggest winner going into 2026 here?
Yeah, I have like it's kind of general, but it's an answer that just immediately sort of occurred to me, and I feel good about it. And it does have some of what Neo said as part of it as well, like, you know, like the key books and stuff like that should do well. I'm talking about the really good stuff, and that's like a really generic thing to say, but this is sort of how I feel about every year, and it's sort of how I collect. And obviously, like you said, the macroeconomics of the world obviously have an effect on everything. But I've been one thing that I've noticed recently is that more and more collectors, or no, the more that I talk to collectors that I've been talking to for a long time, is people, and maybe it's just my like world, but people seem to be bored with common stuff. And so, and I don't think that means that they leave. I think that means they're just more excited about buying less small stuff so they can have enough money to buy the big rare thing when it pops up. So what I'm trying to say is I think the coolest, rarest versions of stuff that we already love and is super desirable is going to have a good year. Like, you know, like the highest, the top of census for some of these books, the ones that are already expensive. I think people are going to go for them that in previous years thought, well, I can't get those, so I'm going to get the, you know, the lower graded version of it. I think people are tired of collecting the common stuff, the more accessible stuff. Not everyone. And some people obviously are coming newly into collecting, and it's natural. The course of collecting is to start where, you know, it feels less risky, where it's less of a choice to make that purchase. I remember when I first started, spending $100 on a slab book was like, you know, like, what am I doing, right? And now forget about it, you know, like the amount of money we spend on stuff now, it graduates, or it elevates rather quickly. You know, in a number of years, you could go from buying $500 9/8 as if they're really expensive, because that's how it would feel to me, to buying $5,000 9/8, and it could be somewhat normalized. But the thing about these 10, 20, $30,000 books is that they're few and far between, and the opportunities to buy them where everything aligns in a way that makes sense. You trust the person you're buying them from, you feel comfortable doing it, you have the capital ready. You know, you have to be prepared for the opportunity. And I've been talking to a lot of people that seem to be getting prepared because they don't want to do the easy stuff, and they want to go for more of their Grail pieces. So I think, you know, the rarest versions of the stuff that's already cool, no matter what, people are going to abandon accessible and go for out of reach. They're going to reach for the out of reach. And I think that if that is how it goes, then that obviously is going to make for a good year for the stuff that is scarce. that everyone would want to have, but might not be in a position to have. I think those prices can go up. And so that plays into what Neo said about keys. And for me, it's like the rare variants or the highest grade, stuff like that. And with this additional interest coming to the market, right, where you have the investor talk happening, those people, if they dabble in comic books that aren't 10, $15 million, they're also going to, if someone says, hey, Ultimate Fallout 4 is the first Miles, and they're gonna be like, okay, great. How much is a 9.8? $900? I don't want that. Oh, well, you could get a 9.8 newsstand. There's roughly 10 of those known to exist, and they cost between 40 and 60,000. That's gonna make some of them get excited, right? And
Look
so
at you putting those numbers up there to try to get that into people's mind.
No, listen. I've sold them. I know what they sell for. Like, I'm not making those numbers up. I've transacted those books, but I do not have a 9.8 newsstand Ultimate Fallout 4 at the moment to sell. But yes, if you are in the market, you should be prepared to spend that kind of money, because that is what people have paid me for them before. So anyway, that's what I think. I think cool stuff gets more expensive, and common stuff, it's still going to be fun. But I think people might be a little bored of things that they can get just by going on eBay.
It sounds like the like Mickey, your life cycle of a collector. It's like getting to the gobbledygook at the end, where it's like the weird random thing that you just like. It's like the 9.8, first whatever Punisher or something doesn't do it for me anymore. I gotta find like the Mark Jewell.
No, you just got to start. You get tired of eating the same stuff. You got to like travel to like some foreign country and just start eating the most exotic ingredients and things like that to get the dopamine that you used to be able to get from a Wolverine #1.
That's exactly right. The dopamine, you have to your tolerance it increases, right? It takes more to make you feel the same rush. And again, I'm just talking about collectibles here. Let's not relate that to anything else. But yeah, and it could just be the community that I'm engaging with the most. But obviously, that's the sense that I'm going to have is of the whatever occurs to me from the conversations that I'm in. But yeah, shout out Mark Jeweler, 9.8 White Pages. Hit me up.
Yeah, I guess I'll go to me for now. Biggest winners. I did actually have soccer cards because I felt like that would be kind of an interesting take. I did jokingly write League of Legends, the Riftbound card game, because I think that's going to be huge. And yes, I am sitting on boxes of sealed product. I unironically think that the Ungraded Truth podcast is going to be one of the biggest winners of 2026 because I think that this is the #1 show in the universe, and we're going to go even more #1 in 2026. But I guess my real answer is honestly, I feel like maybe I'm saying this because it's maybe like a popular thing to say that like now Pokemon is not cool anymore and like One Piece is going to overtake it and Pokemon's dying. But honestly, I think Pokemon is just going to have another unbelievable year. I think it's just going to crush again. Like maybe it lost a little bit of steam these last couple of months, but I just think we're going to look back and be like, yeah, 2026 was the year of Pokemon again.
It's their 30th anniversary, so they're definitely going to be a lot of things going on with it this year.
Yeah. Go ahead, Manu.
When you were saying earlier about the values, I think you're talking about of One Piece, right? Like, this might have occurred to everyone, but were you saying like, the idea of, okay, so everyone saw what Pokemon did, and now they're speccing on One Piece. Perhaps it's not a market that I'm part of, so I'm speaking a little with less knowledge than I would like to. But what you're suggesting, what I took from that is that the values that they think it can get to are the values being paid. So like the future value is priced in. So where the hell is it supposed to go from here if it doesn't achieve the same sort of popularity? Is that what you were saying? Like they've already baked in the spec.
Like cards that earlier earlier last year that were selling for $400 by November, December, we're selling for $12,000. It's like that type of ramp up is just it's too fast, and so like I feel like that's where you're going to have like these these corrections. Now each new set is probably going to have a lot of hype around it, just like we've had with Pokemon, where it's just like there's not like I don't think they print nearly as much as anything like Pokemon. So there's going to be like if you have the same level of like Pokemon flippers like moving into One Piece, like it's going to be probably really tough to get product. And so I imagine there's going to be a lot of like immediate spike in price. but I feel like the people that are buying it are at those spiked prices are just, they're going to get hurt that year. That's kind of my anticipation. I think it's just, like a lot of the jokes out there are, people asking, like a dealer, like that's now selling One Piece. It's like, oh, who's your favorite character? And they're like, oh, Monkey, and it's like, because they have no idea who the character, and I feel like there's a joke there, but there's an element of truth that if the majority of the people jumping over are only doing it for like a quick, like money making opportunity, they're likely going to drop out the instant there's any sign of weakness. And that's the challenge you have.
We all know the dealer's favorite character is Nami, not Monkey.
But they also pronounce that wrong. Nami. So,
yeah.
It is funny because it just, like you said, if you have like, it gets too hot, it's like a sentiment crash, even more than just the price. Like it gets so negative that the value has gone down by so much that people are like, like, fuck this shit. Like they're just so over it. And takes years to like build back that trust and sentiment to where you can unironically like say, hey guys, like One Piece cards are cool again or whatever, if those things happen. I mean, we saw it in comic books.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, and I was watching one of Neo's videos either earlier today or yesterday, and it made me think about and yes, in the comments, yes, I know his name is Luffy. Monkey was the joke that's what they say but
the dealer would call him Luffy.
Yeah, Luffy. Yeah. So, but your comment was like, oh, like the card market during COVID spiked from like, you said something like it was like, I don't know, January 2021 to April 2021. And it was like this and this, whereas like comics, it was like this and then slow bleed forever. It's like the card market moves so much quicker than comics because they transact so often that comics, it gets harder when you have these like spikes in price. You get these awful long like drops. And that's been that's why I feel like that COVID spike has hurt comics so much, is that it's taken so long for it to get back to that like baseline price that people have been negative for years. Whereas with cards, they were negative for 2 months or 3 months or whatever, and it got back to those prices, and then it's had a chance to recover. But comics, we haven't gotten that. And I think that's why we've really struggled in comics, because it's just like every time one sells, I'm just like, just drop down to where you should be, but it doesn't. Like it just is little by little.
I think last year was your recovery year.
Yeah, I mean, last year definitely felt like it was much more flat. Still a little down, but definitely much more flat.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you guys have it. Biggest winners and losers predictions. I don't know if you guys have any other ones that you want to throw out. Maybe I know we kind of combined the categories before we move on here. But if you got any others that you want to throw out, either loser or winner, say them now.
I think PSA Comics has a pretty good year.
Yeah.
Say that again.
I think PSA Comics has a good year.
See, and down in my corner, I had written, and it's my like we got the PSA shills and then the CGC shill. I had CGC comics and cards, and the reason I was saying that is because PSA had so many issues going into last year. You just wonder, is some of that going to get sent over to CGC? And will CGC ever on the card side, and then on the comic side, they've been having these like big record sales that they've been advertising a lot. And I feel like that is really going to help them. Like that gets people to send you stuff, because it's just like, it's in your face. And so PSA, I feel like on the comic side, needs some events or sales like that. They need those like marquee sales to get people to go like, oh, I can send my big books or whatever to you. But CGC just has a stranglehold on that at the moment.
They might get a marquee sale in February. They might get a marquee sale in February, but we'll talk about that more in a minute. But Rob, go ahead.
I'm not saying they're going to have like, Action Comics #1s coming out of the woodwork or anything like that. But I just think they have, like we saw it this year. We talked about it in our wrap-up show, that they had a pretty solid debut year of no real drama. Just they got books, they graded them. The turnaround times were reasonable. The pricing was reasonable. They have some case nonsense here and there, depending on what size you get back. But relatively, they had a pretty clean launch. And I just think that carries over into 2026.
Yeah.
I think just going back to like Never Slabbers being losers, I think it just kind of bumps off that, where I think that both grading companies are going to have good years. in 2026. That's what I imagine.
It's fair.
All right. Well, that's the segment. Biggest winners and losers. We'll see if we are the biggest winner and loser a year from now. But let's kind of go into our next topic here. I thought that this was interesting. We mentioned a little bit about Pokemon, but maybe one of the big winners of 2026 will be the Pikachu Illustrator PSA 10, which of course belongs to Logan Paul. If you guys don't know, it is now live on Golden Auctions, currently with 36 days left, has 27 bids, and is sitting at a whopping 2.852 million, which of course is about halfway there. Logan Paul famously paid $5 million for it, which made it the most expensive Pokemon card ever. And obviously this one has been heavily advertised. It's all over King of Collectibles. Obviously Logan Paul has been going around doing press junkets about it. It's a fun card. It comes with a golden diamond chain with obviously a Pokeball on it. And a very cool little case right here that says Pikachu Illustrator PSA 10 one of one. It's got the Logan Paul logo and kind of a cool case. And then, he's got all these pictures with it here, him at WrestleMania wearing it. And then also, I thought that this was interesting, hand delivery to winning bidder by Logan Paul himself.
So he's like that drops the price in itself.
Well, that's it. That's an interesting part of the conversation. I kind of wanted to, throw it out to you guys. How do you think that this card is going to do? And it almost relates back to the Nicolas Cage conversation about, like, does it give it value being that it was owned by a celebrity and that Logan Paul is actually going to hand it off? But I don't know, guys. I think that this card is going to do pretty well. I feel like it's been marketed extremely efficiently.
I mean, the estimates I've heard is like 7 million is what people are thinking it's going to go for.
It will for sure clear the $5 million number. There's no way they will let this card sell for less than whatever that
some defensive bid.
Well, they will defensive bid this way.
I'm just saying. I feel strongly that this card sells for more than $5 million.
I mean, the interesting thing with this card is I don't know why these started getting shared with me on YouTube. Like, it was just like me scrolling through my YouTube stuff, and there were some videos specifically about this card. It was probably like YouTube was listening into our Instagram chats or something. It was like, oh, you're talking about Pikachu Illustrator, you should watch this video. And there's a lot of controversy around that card. And I'm not talking about the original grading, like going from a 9 to a 10. I'm talking about the Logan Paul Liquid Marketplace. Yeah. Like,
well, can we set the story properly for those who don't know?
Yeah. So Liquid Marketplace was a collectibles exchange kind of that was Logan Paul was a founder of, where you could buy fractionalized pieces, or they said you could buy fractionalized pieces that were on a blockchain of collectibles. What it ended up was that none of that was true, and that people were paying money for pieces of it, but there was nothing with blockchain. There were like all kinds of things where they hadn't, like they were effectively selling securities, but they weren't actually approved to sell these. There's all this stuff going on with it. And then he put this card on Liquid Marketplace and they sold 51% of it. And so in theory, it was supposed to be that he no longer had control over it, and that it was like the community that bought it, and they bought it for 2.5 million that's what they said, because they said it sold out. So they bought it for 2.5 million and had 51%, all this kind of stuff. But then all of a sudden he's on King of Collectibles talking about selling the card. And people are like, what the hell's going on? Like the people in Liquid Marketplace thought they owned this card. And he then goes on social media and goes, oh, well, per the terms of Liquid Marketplace, I was able to buy it back. And so he bought it back and gave whatever Liquid Marketplace the money that they were supposed to distribute to those people, never did. And like, I'm not saying he didn't pay. I'm saying Liquid Marketplace never gave those people this money. And now he's out there like selling it and is going to make 2 million or whatever off of it. And the latest video I saw, and there's not totally a lot of, like, there's not for certain about this, but it sounded like he bought it back for 250 grand, which is nothing, like nothing. And so there's a lot of weird stuff with this card right now. And like, are those people ever going to be made whole? And You know, like apparently you can't even access the site anymore.
So
like,
he did
down.
say there was a Collect article that they're basically bringing the site back online and making sure that everyone can cash out. And I think they're trying to get that cleared up prior to this auction ending.
But if you're cashed out at a $250,000 payment, and unless they were not telling the truth that it actually sold out at the 2.5 million mark, maybe it only sold 250,000 and they just said it sold 2.5 million. Who knows?
There's a lot we don't know.
And so it's like, it's possible people will get made whole there, but still they should have been part of this win. You know, that ultimately is what it should have been. Is it should have been like they're part of this sale, and that you're actually
the whole
making
reason they bought
exactly
to share in the upside.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this wouldn't be the first time that Logan Paul has done a blockchain related scam.
Right.
If you guys don't know, he created a company called CryptoZoo, which was like right when NFTs were getting huge, and he had this like video game thing. CoffeeZilla did a big, expose about it. And essentially he kind of rug pulled basically all the people that bought this thing. It's just the product never delivered. He got dragged for it. But at the end of the day, I mean, he got away with it, so I kind of feel like
he never seems to get caught up in it, like, good on him. Like, he seems to get out of it, but I don't know why people keep buying into it. It's like, what?
That's definitely disappointing. But because that would have actually been the use case for some of this like fractionalized, selling of collectibles and all this stuff. And actually they had been, Ken Golden has recently come out talking about like, all this like, what do you call it? Like institutional buying of collectibles is coming in. But I don't believe that it's actually doing it the way that it was in 2021, where 2021, there was a lot of these companies that, I'm sure that all you guys got the same emails I did where, it's like, hey, do you want to like promote this fractionalized collectible buying platform, which was, to your point, Ryan, what was supposed to happen where like, you own a % of this Pikachu card, and then eventually when it sells, you may get a payout for that. Now people are doing like investor groups that are buying collectibles, but it's like much smaller. It's not open to retail. But it's too bad, because I feel like, how cool of a story would it have been if actually all those people that bought that, earned a little bit of a return on this? And then what would that have meant for collectibles? It feels like something
that would work, like it's reasonable. But like if the representatives for it, like keep, like you said, like rug pulling people, like, I mean, you need it to come from something like a well-recognized like investment firm or, something like that, not like a hype train from a YouTuber. It's like, it's, I don't know. It just, buyer beware, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll have to see. We'll check back in. I mean, 36 days left. So probably 2 shows from now, we'll probably do a report on this and kind of see where it's at. I'm in agreement with you guys. I definitely think it's going to sell for more than 5 million. I do think that for somebody out there, they will think that it's cool that this was Logan Paul's card, and him hand delivering it, I think, is a bonus. And I can only imagine that that's going to, be an episode on King of Collectibles of some manner, or there's going to be some content around it. So I'm sure it's going to be a big story and a big deal, which is why I think Pokemon will do well. But I don't know. Any other thoughts before we kind of move on to the next topic about that Logan Paul card?
I mean, I was going to say, I think Neo, you had commented, I think, on one of our discussions about this, that I think the WrestleMania piece is what will play. Like, that's pretty cool that like you could reference that as it being on WrestleMania. Like that's a big addition to this card that didn't exist prior to that original sale.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, the chain alone is probably worth a pretty decent chunk of money.
That chain's not worth all that much.
It's all fake diamonds.
No. It's just diamonds aren't as valuable as people think. And the gold, of course, is a calculated, gold is currency. So the gold obviously went up in value. This is not that pricey a piece. This piece could be 20 grand. It could be 30 grand. This isn't hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Look at how blingy it is, Manu. Are you going to be a bidder on this one?
No. I like my bling. My bling is my I got mine already.
At least I have to say this. Say what you will about Logan Paul, but at least he's giving the guard with his card, which
takes
is
it back
more than you could say for a lot.
That's why he's delivery. He's like, sorry, guard stays with me.
Chat says the chain is valued at 80,000.
Why is chat saying that? Is that because someone said it's valued at 80K? Because
I don't know.
I mean, if I knew what it weighed, I could tell you what it's worth. The diamonds, the gold is going to be the bulk of that value, not the diamonds. You don't get the labor back. You don't get the setting costs back. You don't get any of that back. And diamonds aren't worth what you paid for when you were making the piece. The gold is the only real value there. And gold is
sound
pricey.
like somebody trying to
ounce.
tell me that as soon as I buy my comic books out of the store, they're not worth $4.99.
No.
That's what you're trying to tell me.
No. As soon as you buy your German automobile and drive it off the lot, it's no longer worth $160,000, you know.
When are my things going to go up? Well, hopefully they will this year. But let's move on now to our next topic here. And I'm going to kind of throw this red meat over to Rob here. You made this Instagram post about the Topps situation here, where you said Topps direct-to-consumer release outside of EQL are an absolute disaster. Could you maybe elaborate for our audience? What's going on with Topps?
So basically what they're doing is they're just trickling out a small supply to direct to consumer. And there's a few reasons why. They put it up, the stuff basically instantly sells out, like within 2 minutes. It's just gone. And then that sends the market into the hype FOMO phase of, oh my God, that sold out in 2 minutes. Holy cow. And then immediately starts grabbing up the limited supply of boxes on the secondary market. And one of the things that Topps does, the way that I understand it from various shops that I've talked to and breakers, their first wave of product is offered at usually whatever the pre-order price goes up for. And then the re-up, to use a term from The Wire, is usually at market price or near market price. So it allows them to basically almost artificially inflate the price of their own product. So that when they go to sell it a second time, they get to sell it at the higher market price value. And it just gives them more control over the entire secondary market by just giving a little drip supply out and then let the secondary market run wild. And they could just be like, I don't know, guys, that's what it's selling for on eBay. Why would we sell it for that much less?
It's almost like you're crowdsourcing a market price.
Basically.
And then you are setting it
artificially, though, because you're only giving a little bit of supply out.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I was wondering about that. That makes sense now. Like, cause to me, it was feeling like they were, I didn't know how that chain worked. So I was thinking like, oh, they're selling the bulk of this to their, you know, the breakers and all this kind of stuff. And they're making the money off of it. But in reality, Topps is making more money off of it by resetting that price effectively on the next wave.
Well, and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then they sell it to the breakers, and the breakers, because they're microtransacting this, like a box that I'll use Topps Chrome Basketball. So a jumbo box released on pre-order for $700. They sold out and they instantly went to $1,500 on the secondary market. So now a breaker gets to take that, and a box that's, say, let's just call it $1,500 to keep the math simpler. Most people aren't going to just go buy a $1,500 box and open it themselves. So the breaker takes it and then they microtransact it and mark it up because they need to make their money on it. So now that $1,500 box is getting microtransacted into like a $2,000 box, if not more. And because they're moving so much product, they start gobbling up more of the supply because they can afford to buy it at the increased price, because they're just going to mark it up again to whatever they need to make their money. So then the secondary market supply gets wiped out, and it throws it all into this breaking ecosystem to the people that just want to open boxes and packs on their own, are kind of left out in the cold because of the buying power that the breakers have. And they're basically controlling the inventory, getting a bulk of it direct from Topps/Fanatics, and then also having the buying power to go out on the secondary market and just gobble up what's on eBay. So that same box that released at 700 FOMO'd to 1,500, and now for my video tomorrow, they're almost at 2,000.
And it's crazy they go for that much, because like I watched your video when you opened it.
I got like maybe $200, maybe $150 worth of cards.
Yeah, so like $100 or whatever of cards, and then like you bought those hanger boxes and got a $700 card.
Yeah.
Like it's comical. Like the people getting wrecked opening sealed product is just like I don't remember if I talked about in the last one. There was like a video I watched of Leonhardt, like the Pokemon card guy, and he opened some $1,000 pack of cards and got like $5 out of it. And I'm just like, holy crap. Like, it's just nothing. Like nothing. Like if you don't hit the chase, it's just worthless.
Well, so one of the things I talked about in my weekly recap video for tomorrow. So the boxes are $2,000. Cooper Flag is the biggest chase. His base rookie auto only sells for $1,400. So even if you hit the best base, now that's the base, no shiny, no nothing. But if you open that card, you'd be like, holy shit, this is awesome.
I just lost.
And after eBay selling fees, you still lost $700 on the box.
Yeah, wild.
Is this not always sort of been the case though with sealed product in terms of like, oh, the value, what is hypothetically in the box, the sum of the parts does not actually equal like, the price of the box. This is kind of like
new. It's just it feels more out of balance now than what it once did.
Yeah,
I mean, you're running the risk of getting punched in the face, but now you're getting like the Logan Paul fight. You're getting that was Anthony Joshua punched in the face.
Right.
Like you're Jake Paul getting punched in the face.
Yeah, I feel like you're getting like in probably 90% of cases, you're lucky if you get 10% of your value back, which is just it's so bad. Whereas I have heard with like this is one of the reasons that people are liking to buy One Piece right now is that in like 90% of cases, you're getting like 60 to 70% of your value back. So it doesn't sting nearly as much to open packs. Whereas, most of the time, opening packs is a losing proposition. But I feel like it's gotten so much worse over the years, like how bad it really is. And that's why, like in one of our prior streams, I was commenting that like, if you really want that dopamine rush of like opening a random thing, you should just go on like Courtyard, because you're going to lose maybe 80, or 20% or 30%, but you get that same rush of like something like blind opening on the screen for you.
So that's a big reason why the sports card repacks have filled in that gap, because you're still going to get punched in the face, but you're not getting punched as hard. By going to the repack.
They're wearing gloves.
Value is so much higher. Well, and it's like, so say I bought into a $1,500 repack instead of a $1,500, like the box that I opened, I got like $100 worth of junk basically out of it. If I bought into a repack, a $1,500 repack, and I hit the floor of like a $600 to $700 card, the way that those are typically designed is it's still probably going to be like a cool card. Like maybe it's a Joe Montana game used patch auto. It only sells for $600. But when I open that $1,500 repack and I get that instead of like a Laurie Marketing sticker auto, I feel way better about my day, even though I still got smoked. At least
I still feel like you win, like you got something cool,
Yeah, even if the value is half of what I bought, or maybe even 30 or 40%, it's just that feeling of opening it is, oh, I feel better about myself after opening this versus getting like absolute shit, which you could get opening a regular modern box. Because you're like, oh yeah, I got this Joe Montana patch auto card. Like, this is cool. You know what I mean? It's just the way that you feel after opening.
And I feel like you could feel like that is something that maybe if you wait long enough, you actually could like break even on it, after 5 years or 10 years, whereas like the stuff you get in a box, like I feel like if
I'm not breaking even on a Bradley Beal
nothing. Well, is this not just like a problem of, it's definitely an issue with the tops, how they're dropping it and then like setting the price. And I do think that to some degree, this also happens with Magic the Gathering products, and that, market has been definitely soured in terms of, the sentiment as well, because you have a moving goalpost of what the MSRP is for this product, when it's sort of like, why are you guys not just setting, a regular price for, your boxes? Why is it always, changing based on, what the set is and what the demand is and all this stuff? It's like, that really makes no sense, because now you have, the idea shouldn't be that, you're basing the value on the cards inside of it. The idea should be that you're selling just a product, and your product is the value itself, not the secondary market hypothetical value. And that's sort of why, like, to what you guys are saying, it makes sense, to buy a repack, because like, you're getting as advertised, 30% of that value at the very least, versus like new product, which you're not. So I don't know what companies do about this. This is just sort of like the nature of where the collectible world is going, and with how many new sets and speculation there is within trading cards, like I don't see it changing anytime
I mean,
soon.
as long as people are willing to pay the price, like, why would they change?
So
Yeah.
I'll correct you on something in that sense. It's not where the collectible world is going. It's where the gambling world's going. Because most of the people,
Sure.
a lot of the people that are buying in the breaks for this stuff, I don't know are actually collecting. And they're just this is just a different outlet for them to spin a casino wheel.
No, I think you're 100% right. I've talked about, like prediction markets, degen behavior, all of that is completely on the rise. And I think that trading cards has just got some of those people in it.
If anything, it's skewed so far that way now. Like trading cards specifically, I think all categories are driven way more now by the gambling folks than it is the collector folks. Like all the decisions companies are making, specifically Fanatics, and they're the main one, but even you could see it in TCGs as well. Like they're leaning into how can we design this product as basically a gamble. Like One Piece does it with their alt art, like super rare manga cards. Like Pokemon does it with their SIRs. Topps does it by putting a huge, basically every tentpole release now from Topps has like some significant chase in it that they're manufacturing for that product to beyond just like your normal stuff that you're hitting. There's like some Grail piece that's going to sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's what's crazy is like there are legitimately, and that's how they drive that price. Like it's like, could I pull that one? But it's like with Topps Chrome, did you say there were like 90 million cards printed? It's like your shot is trash. You might as well buy the lottery.
Yeah, but there's that chance. I mean,
Ryan.
like in Topps Chrome, in Topps Chrome
All
baseball,
in on the lottery.
Let's go. Biggest winners 2026 lotto ticket buyers.
In Topps Chrome baseball, they put an Ohtani game used logo man from I think it was from the game that he hit his 50-50 home run in or something. I forget the specifics on it now. That sold for $3 million, and that was in a product that came out last year.
Wow.
That's
crazy.
wild. So do they like he hits the home run, they're like, give us that jersey, and they cut it out.
Yeah, I mean they have deals with the MLB to get that stuff. So
yeah, man.
It's wild. Well, I don't know, Manu, if you have anything to add on this topic before I transition, but
No, embarrassingly, I was still thinking about Logan Paul's chain. I was like, I don't know how much it weighs. Maybe
You're still
like,
trying to
how much that thing
calculate what
worth?
the value is. Of that
I just need to know the weight of the gold, and then I can actually say
Someone
what
tell
it's
me.
worth.
Someone
Manu's
tell
going to go down to the pawn stores and start, asking.
I'm
his
gonna
dealer.
call someone and see if they know the weight of the gold. So at the next episode, I could say exactly what that chain is worth.
This is like the microphone thing from the first.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let it go.
I can't think about anything else.
Well, while you ponder on that, maybe you'll be able to kind of weigh into this next topic as we kind of go from one degen thing to the next degen thing, which I wanted to get your thoughts on this one. I made a video about the ultimate blind bag situation, which was like all these things were wrecked. And maybe this is copium. I just am trying to stir some conversation and say that, do we have a modern Grail situation here? Now, just to quickly refresh the story, I'm sure most of you guys in the chat know what happened. Ultimate Endgame is the big crossover event for Marvel Comics that is happening right now. They're folding that universe or ending it. They decided to do a blind bag because comic books are trying to capitalize on the trading card degen culture. We've been trying to do the blind bags, and that's really what's selling. They totally screwed their delivery with this stuff. Not all of them, but most of the orders were damaged, poorly shipped, which made the product kind of like basically all the comic books in the blind bags were effectively ruined, or at least didn't have 9/8 available to them. And they even said that dealers could be sending them back. But from the wake of it, out of the ashes rises the phoenix, which the 1 in 1,000 comic book, which was like the chase pole within the bag, was this book right here. This Ultimate Endgame Chip Zdarsky book. And there are tons of sales for this book right now in the secondary market. There's really not even that many available on eBay because they keep getting bought up. Now, granted, they're not selling for ridiculous amounts. I mean, $200 up to $500. But what's interesting about it is that if you see the listings, everybody's saying spine ticks right there, or they're saying spine ticks right there, or multiple ticks, C picks. This person
NM
yeah, this person advertised it as a near mint plus, and it was sold for $700, which kind of leads me to this thing where it's sort of like you got a big crossover book. You have a situation where that created natural scarcity due to damages of how it was put together, and no book showing up on the census yet. But wouldn't that be interesting if we kind of create this sort of white whale modern Grail comic book where this 1 in 1,000 comes out and it's already near mint copies already selling for $700? What if it ends up being that there's only like 10 that show up in 9.8 on the census? I mean, I thought that was kind of a cool silver lining to this whole situation, but I don't know. You guys have thoughts on this one?
I mean, so I can't think of the book. And maybe somebody in the chat will. There was a book that came out in like 2020 or 2019 or 2021 that it was highly damaged in shipping. They all had like some flaws along the spine. Has a little guy on the front that he's like a knight or something like that. It was a popular book for a little while, and I don't know if it's fallen off some. But to me, it feels very, very similar, where it was valuable because it was so tough to get the 9.8 on it. And right. I could Kanto, yes, in the chat, Kanto. So yeah. there was that one was really tough in a 9.8, and so it had a lot of value, and I think it still actually sells for a decent amount in a 9.8. And I could see that happening, like absolutely, like that, especially when it's Spider-Man. You know, I mean, you've got like the Uniqlo variant that sells for like, what is it, 10 grand or something in a 9.8. Now that's because it's rare, but those Spider-Man books, like you've got the Delato, like it is the most popular IP in terms of comics. And so when you have something that's rare, especially in a certain grade with Marvel, or not with moderns, because usually they're super common, I could see if somebody, I haven't looked at the census, I have no idea if anyone graded. If there are any 9.8s out there, or there's just a few that pop up, that could be a super valuable book long-term.
Yeah, no books right now have popped up because it just came out. So it's something that I'm very interested to see as the census gets updated, you know, how many actually make their way to CGC. And it's going to be a little bit delayed because the book came out and then people have to rip the bags and then pull. And then, so it might take a little bit of time for it to get there. But yeah, I think it's actually pretty cool. And again, this is their, you know, Marvel's big crossover event. So it's sort of like even more so than Kanto, which Kanto is kind of like an indie eclectic book. Like this is like a Spider-Man ultimate, you know, everybody is aware of this book. And, you know, sometimes you need the awareness for people to like know, hey, this is like an interesting book to pick up. But I don't know if you guys have thoughts.
I watched your video, and I agree. Like, I think, first of all, I'm happy that I like the cover. Like, the cover actually looks really good. I like that cover, you know, and it's really reasonable what you presented. Like, if they're all damaged, then we actually have scarcity in grade. Like an absolute Batman, we don't have scarcity in grade. There's 4,098 or whatever it is, and climbing, right? It's just, you know, desired, so it has that value. But what if it's desired and it has scarcity in grade? Then we can actually have some fun. It's actually a chase. You know, there's actually one issue is better than the other issue. If they're all just 9.8s, they're all just freaking 9.8s, you know? And the stuff that we collect, like vintage, whatever, however one defines vintage, 80s, you know, and beyond, whatever the case might be, grading wasn't the thing then. And a lot of collectors didn't always keep everything in the best condition. So we have grade scarcity or scarcity in grade for older stuff. But for modern stuff, we don't necessarily, right? Unless it's like a card product that comes out and it's manufactured poorly. Like, you know, there were some conversations about PMGs. Marvel PMGs are notoriously manufactured really bad. Like a PSA 8 is a super high grade on a PMG. So a PSA 10 carries an enormous premium, right? Or you would imagine it would. And maybe that's the sort of thing that that happens to this. So like, I have no trouble agreeing with, seeing it from your perspective, and also being intrigued by it because I like that kind of thing.
Also important to point out, because I know that you guys are familiar with Peach Momoko, you know, this isn't the ultimate chase pull. Like, let's call this one the 1 in 50 or 1 in 25, but there's a Peach Momoko cover for this one as well, specifically the Virgin version that doesn't have a trade dress. But much like all the other ones, they came damaged. I don't know if you guys can see, but like this one sold for $60 and has spine ticks all over it. So it's not just that Spider-Man cover, but maybe, Peeps Moko collectors will also have kind of a rare 9/8 version of a book for them to find. But, this one's still $80, $70, $2.99 for the lot. So kind of cool. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of modern hunts like that. I think it's, I don't know. I think it's fun. It adds something, like you said, like something where stuff is generally pretty common. It gives you something extra to hunt for. And there could be a number of books in this because I think they were like all damaged, so there could be a number of books that ends up being like a chase for.
You guys just got done asking the question earlier as it was pertaining to some cards. You were like, I think Neo posed the question. I believe it was Neo that posed the question, like, why are we paying, not we, but why are people paying premiums for a PSA 10 when 95% of whatever card was being discussed, gets a gem mint grade, right? So like raw versus graded, if it's anticipated to be a PSA 10, then maybe there should be less of a gap between those values. And that's kind of what we see in modern books, right? Like the PSA, the 9.8s don't have a chance to become valuable because everyone that submits it gets a 9.8, so sometimes
this is the new trend from Marvel, just randomly damaging a
screw them up so the secondary market could have something to do. Damn it.
I want to know how they packaged those. Like it's like it looks like they almost must have had them like go through like a roller that like folded them or something. They're just so bad.
It was so bad. There's shout out to Big Clutch, who, if you guys know him, he's a retailer. He's got a YouTube channel, but he did a big unboxing of it, and he just like opened the box, and there's like no shipping, like tape it, or there's like no bubble wrap in it, and just the bags, they're just all like shuffled and folded on top of each other. It was awful. So I don't know, Rob, are you going to be buying up all the high grades that you find out there?
No. But we do see this in cards sometimes. There are I'll give you an example because he's playing tomorrow. Trevor Lawrence's Silver Prism is notoriously has a print issue on it and has a very low PSA 10 gem rate compared to every other card in that same release. Lamar Jackson's 2018 is another one, and so is Patrick Mahomes' rookie Silver Prism has a notorious dimple on it that like artificially keeps the PSA 10 pop count even lower than what it would be, or the gem rate percentage, however you want to qualify it. So this does happen in sports cards as well every once in a while, where there is like one particular card in a particular release that has a way lower gem rate than everything else because of something like where it was on the sheet when it was cut, or just where it was coming off the roller, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very similar to, and I don't remember offhand what the issue is, like X-Men 103 or 104, like that first Star Jammers, that they have that manufacturing defect on the spine, and it's like, it's not a huge key, but a 9/8 goes for a ton more than the books around it, just because it's a very difficult 9/8. So yeah, I mean, there's history for that in comics. This is just an extreme version because the spines are like littered with ticks. And so I imagine getting one that didn't have that happen is it might be that it comes from like a found like box, like an undistributed box.
Yeah. What if
did they? Okay. Yeah. That could be, and that could wreck the market too.
Yeah. That way, if you have like a kind of a McFarlane, what is it? NetherRealm, not quite the same situation, but if you have a find like that, that would definitely be disappointing.
Well, if you've got the 9/8 candidate, grade it now, sell it now, and then you can't lose.
Yeah. That's true. Really, really smart. Yeah, but I'm definitely going to be paying attention to it. I think it would be cool if we have a pseudo-modern valuable book. But speaking of top of census, super valuable modern books, we got to give a shout out to one of our panel members here for our last topic of the night, who had to say goodbye to a beloved Grail of his as he dropped it off at Heritage Auctions. We got ourselves the Malibu Sun 13 first appearance to Spawn? Question mark.
How much did he pay segment? Because we want to cut.
Well, being that you have $15 million and that for having just sold your Superman Action 1, and you guys are not willing to pay me money here to run the YouTube channel. I had to take shill money from Manu. So Manu, why don't you tell me about this situation here in your trip to Heritage as we kind of wrap up?
Yeah, thanks, man. So, some backstory for folks that don't know my relationship with this book. Just generally, Malibu Sun 13 is one of my favorite books. Amongst a few other select things, I kind of cut my teeth on this book, as they would say. I've graded over a dozen 9.8s myself. I'm responsible for over 20 of the 9.8s on the census, which I think is like 80 something 9.8s. Correct me if I'm wrong. What I mean by that is they're raw copies that I've sold that I didn't think were going to hit 9.8s, and some of the people that bought them from me did get 9.8s. I'm very happy for them because, you know, at one point in time, the 9.8 was a $5,500 book. Currently, the 9.8's about a $3,300 book. I actually put a picture up on my Instagram story today. It's still there, that shows in January. It was this day, dude. It was January 10th, 2022, where I took a picture of a CBCS 9.8, CGC 9.8, and a raw copy. And that raw copy is this copy that's now PSA 10. And I've expressed to people that I guarded this book for roughly 5 years, knowing that it was the finest I'd ever seen. And I'd handle over 100 of these issues. I know their expected flaws. I know what they're susceptible to. I know that a lot of them have rust on the staples. And I did not grade, even though at that time I could have gotten $5,500 for that book as a 9.8. I dare not grade it because I didn't want the arbitrary 9.8. I know how the grading companies work. I know the chances of you getting your 9.9 or anything better is slim to none. That's why years later I did speak to Matt Nelson about it, but the 9.9 pre-screen never went into effect. And when the PSA opportunity came and they had eliminated the 9.9s, I knew I had a shot at a 10, and I knew I had the exact book that I wanted to take that shot with. And so a number of months ago, I did submit it, and it did happen to get a 10, rightfully so. Well, I mean, I'm very grateful that it did. I mean, in my mind, yes, rightfully so, but it still felt like an amazing accomplishment when it happened. And then I did get some offers for the book, not high enough to get me to part with them. And I never countered because I didn't want to put a ceiling on the value. And, you know, I'm fairly confident that another 10 is not going to happen, and perhaps not even a CGC 9.9. There aren't any 9.9s or 10s. This is the only 10. And I'm so familiar with the 9.8s. That's why I know that this is such a cut above. And to be completely honest, man, after seeing the performance of some of the PSA 10s, like the X-Men 266, it did over 20 times its 9.8 value. The Killing Joke book did 50 something times its 9.8 value. I had to take a shot at it, and it's a complete gamble, but it's an exciting one. It is a win-win scenario. It's not as though I'm going to be upside down or anything. It's going to be a profit regardless, but this is more of like a story, right? It's like, let's see what this thing could do. Yes, the money is real, but at the end of the day, I just wanted to do a number that we can like really celebrate and clap for and be amazed by, because I'm kind of an observer of this as well. It's not mine. I mean, it's still mine, but it's not in my possession anymore. I've signed the agreements. I dropped it off myself at Heritage a few days ago, which was an amazing experience as well, to take a tour of it and meet a few people that I knew from the internet, but didn't know in person, and shake some hands and really have some fun. Like, places like that are like Disneyland to me. So I had a great time. But yeah, it's with them now, and it is coming up in the February signature auction. So it's going to be like, a book that it is a book that they're very proud of having, and they're also excited about the number that it could achieve. And it's kind of the first time a book like this at this grade is being sold at Heritage. So it's going to be exciting to see what sort of audience comes out for it, who decides they want to get it. And some of the cool things about it, it's the cover of Spawn 1 before the cover of Spawn 1, and the way that it says Spawn is not the way that made it onto the actual issue. So some people consider it like the first cover appearance of Spawn. Some people consider it the first preview of Spawn. And there's a lot of lore behind the book, and there's a lot of desire and demand for it. The value's there. That's why the 9.8 is $3,300, $3,500 current market. But yeah, I dropped it off. I do very much love this book, and even once it sells, it's still going to feel like a part of my collection, because I just operate that way. I sell grails. I sell one-of-one things. Like, it's something that I do. It is my business to do that. But thank you for bringing it up, and thank you to everyone in the chat that was excited about it as well. We're going to talk about it some more, and I'm with you guys. I'm going to see what this thing's going to do. This is the first time I've ever sent anything to an auction, like a real auction.
Well, that's what I wanted to really ask you about.
Okay.
Maybe you can kind of just weigh in and quickly kind of summarize, like, what was the experience like? Are you going to get session 1 placement, by the way?
Oh,
because, session 1, if you guys don't know in the chat, obviously it's going to be a signature auction. Session 1 is when you have the auctioneer talking about it.
Are you on the? Are you a weekend seller?
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
you know what, guys? I didn't know.
You didn't negotiate that?
No, I didn't know
You should-
I negotiated some things. You in life, you get what you negotiate,
Wait, we
not what you deserve.
talked about that. We talked about that though. Remember, because we were saying, I told you, like, when you were like, "Oh, hey, I dropped it off," I was like, "Yeah, but did you like tell Nathan you got to get session 1? You know, you
Shoot,
got to get
well,
this book."
I must have forgot. Oh my gosh, bro, I did not have that conversation. Nathan, if you're watching, I'm going to be calling you.
He's messaging Nate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
no, I
has to
wanted
do
to be
tasks
session
after
1.
the show, looking up the weight of gold and also asking for session
Yeah,
1
and
placement.
along those lines, I also need to know what the carat weight of it is: 14 karat, 22 karat, 18 karat. Well, it's either going to be 14 or 18. But anyway, none of that. Who cares? No, I forgot to ask. I do want to ask. I'm not sure. I just know that it starts February 6th and it closes between February 26th and 28th or something of that sort. There's no reserve on it. It's going to sell for what it's going to sell for, man. And but I'm excited. Like I said, like it's a good time. It's a win-win. It has the potential to do a really great number. What is that number? Who knows, right? Like, because if these other books are 20, 50 listen, man, this thing, come on, those are huge numbers. If it does any of that kind of thing, it's a huge number. I'm going to be grateful regardless of what it does, but I'm part of this whole thing with you guys. Like, I will be watching, excited, nervous, crying, scared, all of that. And I am going to talk to Nathan and be like, Nathan, can we please get in session 1? Maybe we already are. Like, they are excited about the book. Generally speaking, they did that. They posted it on Heritage Comics. Like, not everything that they sell gets posted on their Instagram page, right? So like, there's some appreciation for it there in a real way. So maybe it is a session 1 book, but I'll get some confirmation. I'll let you know on the next episode what I'm told.
Very cool. Well, we'll stay tuned for that. The book is a month away from being sold, and we'll definitely do videos on it. But gentlemen, I think that's going to wrap up our first show of 2026. I want to say thank you to everyone in the chat for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you guys for, going on this journey here in 2026. We're going to be the biggest winner this year. I have a feeling in my heart. But fellas, thanks again. Any last words, parting thoughts?
I mean, I think Derek's got it right. 10 million.
Let's go, Derek. Let's go. Oh, guys, I forgot to say.
Manu sponsoring the podcast in 2026.
No. In fact, I forgot to say, I haven't thought this through all the way, but thank you. I'm going to say this real quick. I'm going to do some sort of like really great giveaway associated with the sale of this book. And the way I might be thinking about this is, but I don't want to put numbers out there because I don't want to jinx anything. But how well it does will determine how big the giveaway is.
Manu, Logan Paul said that he would hand deliver.
You already know that I'm down to hand deliver. I hand delivered it to them.
Hand deliver.
I'm not. No one cares if I bring it to them. I'm not Logan Paul, but dude, I would go above and beyond in the celebration. And I'm not, even if I don't even know who the buyer is going to be, right? But regardless, to the community, to the people that cheer it on, to everyone that's watching and wishing it well, like I want to give some great giveaway back. But the bigger the number it does, the more I'm going to give, obviously, right? But I'm excited to figure out what that's going to be.
Well, we will be here for it. Everyone in the chat, thanks again for watching the show this evening. Remember, hop over to the Ungraded Truth YouTube channel, give us a sub. We want to get to 1,000 subscribers, and also hop over to the Spotify Ungraded Truth. Give it a follow, give it a listen, and we appreciate you. But with that, we will keep an eye on what that book sells for. I'm sure that it will outsell an Action Comics #1.
Do we want to tease that we're potentially might have our first guest? We'll just leave it.
We might potentially have our first.
We might be having a guest.
We might be having guests. We're gonna have so many guests.
We are going to have guests.
It's possible that next episode we will have a guest. TBD. More on that later.
Good night, everyone.
With that, guys. Good night.
Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book bad? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody's submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how could it ever get crazier? And then it always does.